Are we live? Are we live? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nevada Camera Club's first program for 2021. I am Jerome Hamilton. This is kind of different for me. Usually when I'm doing programs, I like the more workshop element where I get to work with everybody. I can do questions throughout the whole process, and that way you guys are, instead of hearing me talk, you're learning things you want to know about versus me just doing a straight program. Obviously, the past year has changed a lot of the way we do things. So this is my first program, so we're going to try and work through this and see how it goes. First thing, we want to thank B&C Camera. They are one of the sponsors for this event. On July 10th and 11th, they have their Summerfest program. I've been to that a couple times. I've traded in some stuff. So they do a trade-in for old equipment or unwanted gear. They have free bratwurst and free ice cream. Major brands are generally there. Like usually there's a Delkin rep. Camera manufacturer reps like Canon and the other guys are always there. So you can go meet them, talk to them if you got more questions, see what the new products are that are coming out. This year they have raffle prizes and giveaways. I don't know what those are, but it will be nice to see what they have. Also coming up, we're going to try and do 3 of these. So I'm doing the first one, so if we have any problems, any major issues, we'll try and work through those. And then next month, July 9th, we're going to have a self-assignment challenge presentation by Jeff Lembach from, he's a Canon product educator. So we look forward to seeing him. And then also on August 13th, we have Elise Bender. And she's going to do a wildlife photography presentation, tips on how to create portfolio-worthy images in wildlife. She is a Tamron ambassador, so it'll be good to see her and see what kind of equipment she's using. One more thing I want to talk about programs is PSA is coming up. That's the Photographic Society of America. And I will be doing a program there. It's kind of a model workshop setup. Usually I do a program, set up some lighting, help people with their cameras, camera settings, and we do some studio stuff. I don't know what we'll have for models, but this year I am trying to hire some of the actors out of Deadwood, Deadwood, South Dakota, and have them come down. So I'm hoping we have, like a Wyatt Earp and a Doc Holliday there, so that will make it a lot of fun. There are some other speakers there. I don't have the list. I do know Art Wolf is on there for one of the speakers, and there's some other good people on there. So that's something interesting to do. Usually that runs about a week. They've got presentations, programs, and a lot of fun things to do. As far as Steve and I know we're both going. Gary Potts, if any of you guys know him from the Camera Club, he's going. I know we're all trying to do a train ride one day, and a Chuck Wagon dinner music show another day. So that'll be some fun stuff. What's that? Where's that? Oh, it is in Rapid City, South Dakota. Hence, we'll be close to Deadwood. That's why I'm going to try and hire some of those people for the models program this year. So if you got any questions on that at the end of this, you'll have my email on there and you guys can feel free. Back to me doing the program. What I generally like to do is do hands-on and have questions throughout. That way we stay interactive. And we're not going to do that this time. So I'm going to go through the whole program, and then at the end we'll do some questions through the chat on YouTube. Steven's here helping me, so he's going to look for some of those, and we'll try and answer some of your questions. Tonight we are doing understanding photographic judges and the judging process. Originally, when I put this program together, it was for the judges, trying to teach the judges how to judge the images, how to comment, what to look for. As we've gone through it over the years, it's also become a little bit more of, even if you don't want to judge, it's a good review of how to review your own images before you enter them. That way you kind of see what the judges are looking for. You kind of look for these same things in your images before entering them. and we are going to move along with that. We'll try and do a little bit of picture-in-picture like this, but the way I already had this built, I didn't actually build it around the picture-in-picture, so we may have to cut in and out with that as well. So we're going to start with understanding photographic judges and the judging process. The following, I'm not going to read everything that's exactly on there, but the following is a list of guidelines. So these are guidelines that Nevada Camera Club has adopted from Photographic Society of America, but is also guidelines that PPA uses, Professional Photographers of America. It's also guidelines that WPPI uses. They look for the same things. Almost all the judging programs that I've been to all kind of review the same outlook and the same ideas behind picking images or judging images or commenting on images. Of course, judges are picking the winners of the program, but also there's a lot of education within entering, because when you hear the comments from the judges, that's how you learn what you're doing good and what you're doing bad. I know it doesn't always work out as well, or some of the judges aren't as talkative as I might be, but that's the whole idea behind it. So there's an apt of winning and losing, but there's also the aptitude of the educational point. So we'll see how we can do here. As we go through, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each element of an image right now. And then from there, I'll kind of talk about and show you images. Now, I'm not saying for you that all these are, going to be perfect scoring image. Actually, for the people that aren't Camera Club related, just in case, or people that haven't even entered yet, usually our judging scale for Nevada Camera Club is 5 through 9. So 5 being a below average, or let's start at the top. 9 being a perfect image. 8 would be a blue ribbon. So 8 is a great image. 7 being the middle is the average. 6 being below average, and the 5 being poor. Now, one thing I've noticed with the judges in the Camera Club the last few times that I've judged is nobody's given a 5, and I think it's just out of fear. I have not seen a lot of 6s. I think possibly me and Ed Stiglitz, maybe one other person I've seen even give a 6 out in the past 4 or 5 months of judging, which tells me that every image that is entered is at least average or better, which is probably not accurate. So the bad part about that is nobody's learning anything when they're entering, because everyone thinks they're entering great images. Another thing I did on a bad note is I kind of tallied everybody's scores for the last couple of competitions that I judged. And there was one judge that gave out 1 7. Everything else was 8s, and then I believe there was 5 or 6 9s. So the only problem with that, and I'm not saying that person's a bad judge or he should be kicked out. That's not what I mean by it. But the problem with that is the people that are entering and you're just giving them 8s, 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 they think they're doing great and they don't need to learn anything. And that's a bad way to teach. So the scoring process sometimes might hurt our feelings, but at the same time, it's supposed to help. So if we're just going to throw 8s to everybody and give everybody a blue ribbon, you're not going to assist in the learning process of photography. And that's what a lot of people are in the clubs for. You're there to learn. You're there to be productive. You want to, try new things. And that's what we should be doing. So let's move on. Okay, 12 elements. Impact, composition, subject matter, creativity, style, presentation, balance, lighting, center of interest, image quality, technique, and storytelling. Now, some judging processes are a lot more meticulous, and some are a lot more lenient. Nevada Camera Club, we're a little bit in the middle. We try and judge fast. Sometimes we have a lot of images and you don't want to spend 3 hours a night trying to judge them all. So the score is usually a little bit faster, and then sometimes the comments are, come and go as we can. I've also been with a lot of programs that if something is not good, it just gets kicked out. There's no even second thought about it. If one judge says out, it's gone. So it never even gets scored or commented on or anything. And that's things like WPPI, because they get, thousands of images. So the process has to move along a little bit faster. Same thing with PPA. Sometimes they have millions of images between, PPA, Professional Photographers of America, has a PPN, Professional Photographers of Nevada. They got a PPO, Professional Photographers of Ohio, and on and on and on. So the amount of images they're seeing is overwhelming sometimes, and that's why it's a lot more in-out process before they start judging. Also, we've narrowed it down to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which makes it easier for our judges to kind of apply a score to each image, whereas some programs are still doing, like a 55 to a 99 that each judge. So something in Nevada Camera Club, an 8 would be a blue ribbon, and a 9's a perfect score, which anywhere in between that 8 and 9 would be a blue ribbon. So kind of the same thing in other organizations that would do an 80 to a 99 would be about the same as us, where there's a little bit more leeway back and forth. We don't have that. But at the same time, if you had 50 images that fell between 80 and 99, those would fall as they score. Whereas us, we will take everything that has a high score, and then we do it for placement for the blue ribbon. So again, where Nevada Camera Club has made it a lot easier to apply ribbons and programs and prestige, at the same time, we need to continue to apply the learning process. So, impact. I want to read you one thing. This is actually from Photographic Society of America. So their impact, actually, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's read Nevada Camera Club. Nevada Camera Club's impact. This generally is determined by what the viewer sees first upon looking at a photograph. What creates the viewer's first impression? Does the image create a strong feeling? What holds the viewer's eye? Impact can be created by any of the remaining elements. So impact is inclusive of all the elements. That's kind of what that's saying. To put it on an easy note, we say impact is the wow factor. So when you see an image, you're kind of like, wow, that's great. Wow, that makes me feel good. Wow, great color. Whatever that might be for you at that time. For Photographic Society of America, they have a whole page. This whole page is on impact. But I'm just going to read, photographs with impact are able to challenge our complacency, activate and exercise our imagination, mold and direct the vision or sense of sight, guide and release our emotions, release our inhibitions, direct us to our essential set of signs and symbols, provide us with some of our life force, and restore our spirit. So a lot more goes into the impact, but these are things that we actually feel when we see that. Sometimes us as a judge, we can't always explain all these expressions and why we like it, but that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to try and do. So once again, that's the impact. I think I have one more image for impact. So this is an image I was actually doing. I took a judging class in Amherst in Boston, in Massachusetts, Amherst University, and I was teaching there. But at the same time, they were doing a judging competition. So in that competition, they were talking about look for things that are different. So not the normal image, because within their organization, that's what makes impact. It's not just a regular portrait or a regular picture of a wildlife animal or a regular flower. It's something that has more creative impact. So this is an image I did there. And actually, it's done very well throughout PSA and Nevada Camera Club. Okay, so composition. Boy, I tell you. Again, going back to me judging the last 4 or 5 months, I didn't judge for probably a couple years, but maybe here and there once in a while. And even with the amount of photography now that I see on social media, especially being Instagram, because I do more on Instagram than any of the other platforms, is the amount of photography that has absolutely no composition whatsoever. You know, some of them have great color, so they do have a little bit of impact. Some of them have bright colors, or, you know, pretty girls is a big thing on Instagram. So yeah, they have impact in that realm, but as far as having any kind of compositional expertise to them, there's really nothing. You see so much that is just placed right in the middle and shot, and then there's all this stuff around the sides that I guarantee you in something like PPA or WPPI, it's going to be thrown out. It doesn't matter how much impact and color it has. If there's no compositional value, that's the main technical aspect that everybody looks for in any competition. It's going to be kicked out. I keep talking about other things because I've done the judging classes with Photographic Society of America. That was that book I just showed you. They got a whole book on that stuff. I've done the judging classes in Daytona with Professional Photographers of America, PPA. And then I've done some other little club things and some little university things like Amherst, who they have. Sometimes they will do it for photographers, but most of that stuff is geared towards artists, because there's still a big art world that looks at photography as a kind of a faux pas. They're not artists; they're just photographers, and I don't agree with all that, but you know, you kind of see their point. So composition. Composition deals with rule of thirds. If you're looking at what do we got up there? The train right now. So obviously this train's in the bottom third. You got the sky in the top third. The engine is in the right third. The caboose is in the left third. So I'm almost hitting all 4 points of rule of thirds there. You've got an S curve with the train coming in and around. You got a C curve at the bottom with the shadows. A little bit contrasty on this image, but it's got all kinds of rules that it's following. So it's like almost got too many rules. Almost makes me throw up because it got so much composition. But then you have something like this that, yes, it's a decent image. It has, you know, the models in the right third, the motorcycles in the bottom third. There's a PowerPoint where the two intersect. You know, it's good, but it's not, you know, it doesn't fit the impact part of it. It fits a good composition part of it. So it's still a technically good composition. Okay, moving on. Subject matter. Subject matter is, does the subject fit within the boundaries of the interpretation being presented? Is the camera angle, creative technique, choice of lighting, etc. pleasing to the subject? So here, this was actually for a jewelry client. So we wanted to show the earrings and the necklace, and I didn't want her looking at the camera because that takes away from the jewelry. So we're trying to enhance the jewelry a little bit more, made her a little bit more monochrome and let the jewelry color stand out. Subject matter wise, it works. You have two subjects, which you're trying to make the jewelry the main subject, she's the secondary subject. You don't want them to distract. Sometimes pretty girl distracts anyway, but you know, that works pretty well. The next one is a pitcher for baseball. You don't really have to know a lot about baseball to know that's probably what's happening here. He's a pitcher, he's on a baseball field, you can see the green grass, so the subject fits within the boundaries. It's not outlandish of what's going on. Next one is creativity. So creativity is not being creative as far as doing a bunch of digital work and changing the image. Creativity on this aspect is more the photographer's approach to the image. So this is a studio image, and it's a fast shutter, so it's a stop action. That's kind of the technique used here to catch the dancer jumping in the air. This is a single photograph. It's not a what is it? Composite. That's it. It's not a composite. So she was actually jumping in the studio. We had a big studio area, but she's actually jumping in the studio. So the only thing digitally done is a little bit on the floor. I didn't like the texture of the floor, so we just kind of smudged it a little bit. But this is one shot, you know. And if you look back, it has a little bit of impact, maybe from seeing the dancer jump or a little bit from the reds and the dark motorcycle. It also has composition. Her arms are kind of the same diagonal as the motorcycle, and then her foot coming out to the front kind of leads the same leading lines as the forks to the front tire. So it all kind of works together. Same thing under creativity is this is a slower shutter speed with the lights kind of stopping the action for the performer, but it's a long exposure to get the fire spinning. So creative approach. Creativity is more the creative approach to the image, not necessarily being a creative category where you're doing a lot of digital work. Style. Does the photograph or photographer demonstrate individuality within the image? Does the photograph stand out or revive a different way of seeing than most? So style, if you follow me a long time, you'll see my style is very bright images like this one. A lot of my studio work is very bright, high key. A lot of stuff I do outdoors, I shoot a lot of high key outdoors. I will do stuff that's darker, but that is more my style of the high key. So that's kind of what the style is. The style is not necessarily the texture I put on this image or the texture I put on the next image. It's more of what you see a photographer shooting, how they're putting it together. If you guys have questions and you're thinking of things, write them down so we'll have them at the end of the program, and I'll try and go through as many as I can. Presentation. So presentation's a lot bigger thing in print competitions, more than digital competitions. But it can still be an issue in digital because presentation is how you display the image. So yes, a little bit here, it's the panorama presentation of this image to let the bird stretch out a little bit and not have so much sky. Also, it's the stroke lines around the image to make it kind of pop out from the background. Sometimes it's better to leave an image, and sometimes it's better to put something on it. Usually, when you have a bad presentation, it will be like if I made this black stroke line green or even yellow to match around for the bottom. So just making it something that's not kind of studio or gallery ready. Even when you do prints, preferred prints, I mean, again, some competitions will just completely throw it out if you put a blue mat on something. But we've seen it in print competitions where a great image comes in with a blue mat or a green mat or something crazy, and it just ruins the whole image part of it. So most of the time you're good with a white or a black presentation, matte, stroke line, something like that. This one here has nothing. I put this image in twice, and for some reason, I don't know if you guys can see it on my screen. It looks like a stroke line on the left and the right, but not the top and the bottom, and it should have nothing on there. I just wanted to show you the difference of one with a stroke line and one without it. Okay, balance. So balance within an image is the balance between either two subjects, which here you have the perfume and the model, or the balance within the color. You have the warm tones of the perfume and the cool tones of the shadowed image in the back. That's what the balance is creating. Balance between light and dark, highlight and shadow, tones or colors. Here you have the balance of her in the blue suit and the warm face, and the background has the warm and cool colors in the sky, so they kind of work together. You do have a sense of balance of maybe bad air because she has a face mask on and you don't know what the clouds are, but as long as it works together, that's what the balance is in the image. Lighting. So lighting can sometimes make or break an image. Some people get overwhelmed with lighting and try and do too much, and some people don't do enough and the image seems dark. Here, I did a little bit creative placement of the lighting. So there's of course, you can see this image has a light behind and a light in front, and I set it up so it just lit the Dear Santa. This is actually a program workshop Stephen and I did for Christmas cards, so this was kind of fun. So lighting, not only do you need to look for good lighting, but you need to look for creative dynamic lighting, and that's what I'm talking about. Lighting from the sides here is kind of what adds dimension to all the balls, and lighting the photograph, the art of enhancing, subduing the characteristics of the subject or object. So a lot of times, even in studio stuff, you'll see me do a really soft light when I'm shooting female models because it's better for the texture on the skin. But then when I shoot a male model, I will do a lot harder lighting or a lot more side lighting because that creates more texture and more characteristics. Sometimes you do it with older people as well, just to create the character look. Center of interest. Does one subject or object dominate? Does it hold the viewer's eye with no distractions? So sometimes when you have two subjects, you want your main subject to hold the judge's attention or hold the viewer's attention. You don't want it to slip away. Here you have basically two subjects. You could say three if you count the mountain horizon in the background, the model jumping, and the sun, but obviously you stay within her and looking at her shadow. The sun just kind of makes her pop out from the background. Here again you have a surfer, which obviously this pops way out from the background. All the water spots make it kind of fun. However, you must not be so strong that the prevent the viewer from returning to the primary point of interest. So that means in the background. So there's nothing here in the background that's going to take you away. Image quality is simplicity is often the key to success. So I'm always talking about workshops, especially when I'm doing new things. I try and have everybody be as simple as possible. Try not to overdo your lighting. Try not to overwork reflectors. Try and find lighting that's easy to work with. Technically, this studio image is not a good example of that because I think this is about 7 lights set up to shoot this motorcycle. But the idea of the image, is a simple image once we got it lit because it's a motorcycle against a background. So there's nothing actually to distract you from the image. Look for good color balance, strong tonal contrast, and a good range of midtones. There's not a lot of midtones in this for the bike. There's a little bit in the ground and a little bit blending in the background, but the bike is a little bit contrasty. The blue works really good against the warm tone background, so it stands out. Image quality can also consist of your focus, where your focus point is. So here I have a lot of focus because I didn't want any soft focus on the dresses. This is for a dress manufacturer, so I got to make sure there's a good focus throughout. The other image, I'm going to go back just to that one where, we kind of blurred the front of the background and the back of the background a little bit, and the focus is put right just on the bike itself. But here we have a lot more in focus, foreground and background, because we want to make sure the focus affects everything. The colors pop out of the image, so that helps us there. So tonal range, well, we have a lot of skin tones between the 5 girls, so it all works really well. Technique. Okay, technique, the same as creativity, is not really about the digital application to this image, and I don't want you guys to get that mixed up. So neither one of those really do or deal with the digital application. Does the photographic technique suit the subject? Technique is the foundation of photography. However, application of art principles is necessary, meaning we're in the rule of thirds with the bottom ground, then you have the mountain and her jumping into the top 2/3. So you have the fence leading down and kind of leading up. Her legs and stuff kind of do the same thing. She gives us a C curve when she jumps. So there's a lot of composition here. There's a lot of tonal contrast. I was playing around digitally. I liked the application I put in there, even though it's really overdone, because you can see, the lines along the mountain and the lines around her, which in most circles is going to be a bad thing. They're going to say it's overdone, it's over sharpened, the process is done too much. But sometimes that is going to be what you feel and you like about it. Just don't get upset. Like if I put this in, I don't think it scored very well, because the judges aren't going to like it when it comes to a competition platform. I might like it to hang on my wall because it's kind of a nice piece of art. But really the technique here is the stop action. She's jumping. So it's the technique process of me taking the photograph. This here is the exact same thing. The technique process of me taking the photograph is the stop action. I'm using a high shutter speed to stop the action. I'm using a wide or small number aperture to have the focus just on his face, the hat, the part of him that's really grinding. You can see the balls out of focus, his hands are a little bit out of focus, and his feet and the people in the background are out of focus. So technique is more how you're taking the picture and the quality from within. Storytelling. So a lot of people get mixed up with photojournalism and documentary. That's two issues that a lot of people have problems with, two categories rather that people have problems with. And if there's a story being told, a lot of people try and use a title. Actually, I should have talked about that with the presentation, because part of your presentation is your title. One thing to think about before I go any further with that is a lot of competitions, you enter an image and they never read the title. Some competitions titles aren't even allowed. Your image is just your name and a number or a category. So your image needs to tell a story without a title, because your title's not there to help it. Your title would just be there to enhance it, and that's going to be part of your presentation when you're judging. Usually the only thing you hear the judges say is that title really doesn't help it. I think that's really the only thing I've heard the last couple of things. That might have been me that said it, but anyway, so storytelling. Does the image make a statement? So photojournalism is more about telling a story, and you shouldn't need a title for whatever that story is. Documenting something is not necessarily telling a strong story. It's just more about a picture of a documentation of a certain subject. Buildings are really easy. So usually people that do documentaries of buildings, it's pretty easy. But to do a documentation of another type of subject, like a person or all that, is where a lot of people struggle with that. All images, whatever category, it should still have some kind of story value to it. So does the image make a statement? Does it present a complete story? Can it grasp the image? Can the viewer grasp the image complete meaning at first glance? So that's kind of, here you see boys playing baseball. So yes, you kind of get all that with just looking at the picture without me explaining it to you. Same thing here. You don't have to know a lot about baseball to know that if you drop the ball, that's a bad thing. So everybody has that feeling of, oh, right when you see the image. So that's the storytelling aspect. Okay, so that covers pretty much all of the 12 elements. Now, once again, in Nevada Camera Club, we try and judge an image in like 10 to 20 seconds. So how do you put all that together to judge an image? So even again, for people that want to enter, this is good for you to keep in mind. I actually had a picture of my son's hand, and I couldn't find it. So, it's like his first couple years at school, he would do a little drawing for me, usually around Thanksgiving time, and have a little turkey head here and then have some feathers up there. But I couldn't find it. I wanted to put it on here. I thought it would be funny because that's actually usually how I judge. I judge with one hand. For my 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, this program was set up for, like I said, to work within people. So it's talking about your handout. If anybody wants a handout, now if you're a Camera Club member, you should have all these elements on the website, correct? Yeah, it should all be on the website. If you're not a Camera Club member, you can email me and I will send you these. So if you didn't write them down, that's not a big deal. We'll get them to you. Once again, my email will be at the end, so that shouldn't be a problem. But once again, let's talk about applying these 12 elements. So 12 elements, and we're going to break them down to 5. And this is the way I do it. This is not the way all judges do it. I don't want you to think that. And it's not the way that you have to do it. It's just how I make it easier for me, so I can think about things quickly, and I can figure out, if I like the image, don't like the image, if the image has technical qualities, if it tells me a story, I can do all that quickly on one hand. So impact is everything. We've established that impact is our number one application or element that makes an image. The more of the other 11 you put together, that gives us the impact. So impact is my number one. One finger for the impact. So usually what I do is I start with 5. If I don't have impact right when that picture comes up, I take one away and I'm down to 4. And that's kind of how I judge. So right when I see this image, if it has impact, I'll keep it up there. If it grabbed me pretty quick, oh yeah, it's kind of exciting, or ooh, I like the mood, or wow, then I keep that 5 up there because that's my number one impact. And then composition and balance kind of work together because composition is how the subject or subjects are displayed within your parameters, or how two subjects may work together, which is the balance. So they kind of work together. So here you have the leading lines into it's my son, but into the little cowboy. And even if you look at his face and your eyes tend to go down to one gun, up to the other gun, back to his face, maybe, a little bit to the badge, that gives you a triangle within your element that keeps you kind of moving around in that circle. He's kind of got a lean to him with an elbow sticking out. He's got the foot kicked out one side, so that gives him a little dimension, a little bit of S-curve to his body. So there's a lot of composition there. Balance with the blacks and the whites, I think, is good. Tonal contrast. We have his head, so it's not straight into a window. It's a little touching on the little sides. There's always a lot of discussion if somebody's head should be touching a window or a door frame, or if it should be completely in or completely out. I think as long as it's not coming straight out of the middle of the top of the head or cutting right through the back of the head, like this, I think it has good composition. So that gives us 2. So I look at impact, composition, balance, and that keeps 2 points up. And that also takes care of 3 of our elements. So, again, here we're looking at the 2 subjects working together. We have cool, warm tones in the sky, cool tones in the sky, warm tones at the bottom of the sky with the sunset, lighting the subjects, nice curves with all the dancers. I like to shoot performers because they all know how to pose. Okay, so next one, we're going to go to subject matter. So is it a good subject? Do we like the subject? Is the subject pleasing or enhancing, or does the subject make me feel a certain mood? Doesn't have to be a good mood, doesn't have to be a bad mood, but does it make me move or think about it? And then lighting. Does lighting the subject work? Is the subject the center of interest? So those 3 we kind of put together. I'm going to group together as another one. So 1, 2, and 3. So now we only have 2 more to go. Here we have this leaf is, of course, the subject. It's obviously the center of interest. That's easy because it's the only thing there. Lighting, this is backlighting. I chose the backlighting because it kind of pops the veins and stuff out of the leaves. So I feel that, yes, this has good lighting. So that would give me 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so moving on. Creativity, style, and image quality. So looking back, creativity and style, I kind of, well, and technique also, I kind of put into the same realm of how the photographer approaches it. So is this have a style to it or a creative look at it? Shooting the iPhone instead of the background, some people are going to like it, some aren't, and that's kind of the risk you take entering competitions, because you're not always going to please every single judge. So it's the good times when you can make all the judges go, ooh, I like that. That's what makes the good part of it. But so back to creativity, style, and image quality. Image quality being is the image lit throughout? Does it have good lighting? Does it have good focus? Is the subject in focus being the iPhone picture, not necessarily the background picture? And the same with this. Here we are. I talked about shooting men, where I do a little bit harder lighting, so you have the focus on his eyes. The background's a little bit blurry. Tilt of his head, which usually you don't tilt a guy's head because usually that's a feminine pose, but this is a feminine pose on a very masculine guy, so it works very well with this image. So yes, creativity, style, image quality. So I've got 4. So now if we can make one more happen, presentation, technique, and storytelling. So presentation again, really in a digital image is how it's cropped or laid out. A little bit more of the stroke line on this one. Technique is pretty simple. It's just the same, field depth of field with the focus. So there's not a lot of technique, but the lighting is part of the technique in this. So that's in a studio image. So that's kind of what makes it. Storytelling is, oh yeah, this makes you feel all warm and fuzzy, because I don't know about you, but the first thing I think about is Santa Claus when I see this guy. Even though it's a black and white image, I think Santa Claus. And that's a pleasing story, because one way or the other, you're thinking, hey, this guy is great, Christmas time, Christmas time, Christmas time, or you get the story of he brought me coal and I don't like this guy. So one way or the other, it's going to affect you. Once again, storytelling, don't have to be a big rodeo fan to know that this guy's wrestling a cow or a bull or whatever that little thing is there. Presentation technique. Again, this is stop action. You can see all the little dirt balls flying up. So a lot of focus throughout, a lot of stop action. And that's what makes it. So now we've got impact, composition, subject matter, creativity, and storytelling. So I've put all 12 of those elements into 5 separate fingers. So five elements. I made 12 into 5. That way, you know, you don't have to use 2 hands and maybe 2 toes to try and judge. You can do it all on 1 hand. So let's look at the top image, the one with the fence and the snowbound. You got the trees. So looking at it real quick, the impact in the image is not a strong impact like I went, oh wow, but it has a nice impact. It has a smoothing mood. So I may or may not keep that one. You know, it's not bad. It's not a bad impact. It might not win the competition tonight, but it does have impact with the mood. Composition, you have the trees in the left third and the right third. You have the horizon a little bit above the bottom third. The sky has the top 2/3. You have the leading lines in with the shadows and the fence. You kind of have an S-curve. A lot of compositional technique going on there. Subject matter is the trees, the fence, the snow, the sky. Creativity is it's pretty much just focused throughout, so it's a wide angle, a lot of depth of field. And does it tell a story to you? Well, once again, that's going to be up to the judge. You know, some judges are going to like this because it's a nice snowy feeling day, and then some judges are going to be from, you know, somewhere like New Jersey or Ohio or Wisconsin and just hate the snow, and it's not going to do any good, and there's nothing you can do about that. Same with the little girl here. You know, a lot of impact with the little girl. I think there's more impact with the little girl looking at you and the mom with her eyes closed than there is in the... oop, did I hit that? That's okay. Go back one. Yeah, I think there's a little bit more impact in the black and white with the little girl than there is with the snowy feeling landscape. But that's just me. Once again, you know, we've got the girl with the head wrap on. I don't want to say it wrong, so I'm not going to talk about it. And then we have this landscape over here. So I shot this picture quite a while ago in the studio, and I liked it a lot, but I played with it and played with it. Of course, it was originally a color image and a white sheet, and I think I had entered it a couple times. It didn't do very well, and then I turned it into kind of like this sepia tone look, and it's won a medal at PSA, and it's won a bunch of stuff in camera clubs and everything else. So I think changing the look to a monochrome image kind of made it a lot more appealing to a lot more people, or a lot more judges in that respect. So it has impact. The eyes kind of dig into you. Composition, you know, it's a center composition, but the composition's kind of with the eyes being in the top third, the mouth in the bottom third. You've got the sides that kind of shape and mold the face and kind of hold your attention's held right into the eyes anyway. So storytelling, I don't know if there's a big story for me in the image. I mean, it's my image and I like it, but I don't know if there's a big story. But I've had people that say, oh, that reminds me of this, or that reminds me of someone I knew. So for some people, you end up getting a story. So now let's move over to this little landscape here. Does it have impact? No. So I'm down to a 4 right off the bat. Composition, yeah, it's got great composition. It's got the leading lines, the lake coming in, horizons just about on the bottom third, given the top 2/3 to the sky and the clouds. You've got trees on both sides to kind of hold your attention in. So it's got a lot of composition. Subject matter is not bad. I like the lake and the sky and the trees. Creativity, I think the creativity of the photographer as a photographer and shooting the image was good. I think the problem lies with the application of the process afterwards. I think it's affected too much of the sky. It's burned the sky in too much. Of course, this is my image, but I'm just trying to show you the difference of how I may be looking at an image. Storytelling, it's not a strong story, but I do see the story of the winter day, you know, the frozen lake on the side, so maybe it's warming up. so it's not all frozen, or maybe this water moves and it doesn't get cold enough to freeze all the way across. So it has all the elements. But I'm already down to a 7 just because of the creativity and the impact I didn't have. So 7, that's still an average pitcher. And I think what I've seen in Camera Club is some of the judges are just 8, 8, 8, 8 for everything, and it shouldn't be. This should not be an 8. I took the picture, and I know it shouldn't be an 8. I don't remember if this was ever in. I don't think this was ever entered into a program. I probably should have, just so I had a score on it. But that I see a lot of people that have their heart so much into an image and they think it's great and they put a lot of work into it, or it was really hard to get, or they had to climb a mountain and fly 3,000 miles and jump in a hole and swim underwater to get it, but the judges don't know that. So if you don't take a good picture after you've done all that hard work, then that's your own fault. That's not the judge's fault for judging it bad. Okay, so let's move on. So that's our 12 elements broken down into 5. So looking at it, that's a good way to look through, and you can leave it on me, and pick out better images, or pick out good images, or pick out the best images out of what you have. When I am shooting pictures, so I was going to try and do a big thing on composition, because I see a lot of people struggling in composition. That's the biggest struggle I see out of all these elements of everything, is the composition. But when I started to try and put together, it's going to be too long. So I will try and put together a whole nother program just on composition. And that way I can break it down and show you a lot more images dealing with composition than we had here. So I think that is kind of where we'll go. We're going to go real quick. Go ahead and go back to the slideshow real quick. So I'm just going to do this one real quick, and then we're going to take our little break, and then we'll get to the next thing. But commenting, comments, commentary, education, and motivation. That's technically what Nevada Camera Club is about. That's what Photographic Society is about, and that's even what Professional Photographers of America is about. And actually, even that's what WPPI is about. That's why when you enter WPPI, you can go in and sit down and watch the whole judging process as it goes on. You don't always get your picture judged. Just because they have so many. Like I said, if it's not good enough to make it to that point, same with PPA, it just gets kicked out and you kind of miss a little bit. With Photographic Society of America, you can join groups and your images will travel around to, like, say there's 5 groups within a big group, and this group will get all the images and they kind of score them and judge them and comment on them, and then it goes to the next group, score, and then it goes to the next group, and then when it gets back to you, you get your image and you get like 3 or 4 different comments that have come from all the other groups. So it's kind of a good thing. With Nevada Camera Club, we try and put all that into our competitions, and so I know sometimes it's hard to say some things, and I'm the same way. Sometimes I look at a picture and I go, I don't know what to say. I just want to strangle myself, but we got to try and come up with something. So I just threw an image on here. Think positive, speak positive. Yeah, I would try and tell everybody that, and it doesn't always work, but colors in the sky are awesome. And actually, these are comments that some other people made during another program that I did. So these are actually not my comments here. So colors in the sky are awesome. The way you capture the dancer is explicit. This shows a wonderful ability to catch and place your subject within the frame. I love the way she seems to be floating in the air. So usually when you judge and then you get to the commenting process, you try and say something good, and sometimes it's hard to find something good. Some images don't really have anything good, so you gotta struggle. But that's part of it. You gotta find something. And worst case scenario, go back to the 12 elements and see if one of those elements can fit that picture where, you know, hey, your exposure was good. Hey, I like the subject. You know, sometimes you got to try it again, but there's always something there. Actually, that next slide, I think, is what I already said to you. So, and then you want the creative process to try and help them be better. So if anybody was watching the competition, the past competition for last month, there was a couple images that got 27s, and I still tried to be constructive because, once again, even if somebody does really good and they win the whole program for the night, and we commented, I like the picture. I think that was one comment on one picture was, I like the picture. Okay, that's great. But I tried to give even a little bit more just to help the viewer. Because, I mean, if you're someone like me, you know, I've shot professionally for, I don't know, 25 years. And I still go to programs. I still watch other people's programs. I still go to you know, conventions to see what's going on. I like to see what the new stuff is. It's all to help you advance. You know, I've got the new RF camera. I haven't opened it yet, but I've got the new RF camera because now mirrorless is the new thing. You know, I go back to the time when DSLRs were just coming out, and that was a big thing because I even go back to the time when I was shooting 4x5 and 5x7 sheet film for my clients, some of the hotels here. So some of the hotels that aren't even here anymore, like the Showboat. I used to do all their menu pictures, and some of that was done on 4x5 sheet film. So we photography progresses a lot, and you as photographers need to progress as well. I know that with the new mirrorless, everybody's usually pretty technical, but the biggest issue I see with brand new photographers is everything is right in the middle. So you've got all this wasted stuff around. The subject is right in the middle, so there's no composition. And the next thing is you shoot with just one aperture or on program, and everything is always in focus. There's no depth of field. There's no depth to the image. There's no depth in lighting, and there's no depth in the image itself with the focus or depth of preview, depth of field. Okay, so this is critique now, so there needs to be a little more to the horizon line to help the composition. Yes, I agree. There's actually no horizon line there. That needs to be up higher. Next one is maybe a different color dress could have added a little more impact. Yes, I don't know what color we could go for, but that could be a possibility. Maybe a little bit more light on her, maybe a little more light on the dress would have made her stand out a little bit more. Maybe just cutting the whole bottom out and focusing more on her with the pink clouds in the background would have been a stronger impact. The bush in the bottom tends to take my view away from the subject. Yes, agreed. And I might have scored this a little higher if the image had a little more pop. Okay, so more impact. So more impact is kind of what they're looking for there. Okay, so here's my website. I have 2 Instagrams up there. Jerome G. Hamilton had a lot of glamour stuff. And I'm kind of changing that to be just more overall photography. So the images are in the process of changing a little bit, but they're going to be more related to all photography, not just one particular style. Travel with Jerome is a little bit more of the travel stuff, and it's kind of what I'm doing and where I'm going. So I'm kind of pushing those 2 Instagrams right now. Jerome Hamilton's been around a lot, so it has a lot more followers than the Travel with Jerome one. This is my email if anybody wants to email me for that sheet or any other questions that you don't have here. But is there any questions up there now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got some questions, so let's see what we got. I think we're switching over. So you might have to read that to me because I can't see that all the way over there. Okay. Good stuff with social media videos. Okay, good stuff. With social media videos being so popular, it is possible or plausible to combine photography and video to generate interest in a story, and what types of techniques could be used? Okay, so your question is, can you combine the photography and the video? Yes, absolutely. And I think you should be doing that because I think that adds a lot to videos. We've just done some, actually on my Instagram. I think it's on both of those Instagram profiles. There's a little video that has video and then inset pictures that I just did on the phone. It was something I did quick for Hotel Shauna in Costa Rica, and I'm working on another one that will be more that I filmed with the regular cameras. But we did the one on the phone just to make it quick and something they could post right away. But yes, I think that's a good idea. There's a lot of, as far as techniques, there's a lot of apps on the phone that are just making stuff so easy. The biggest issue and the biggest thing I see that people make mistakes on is what music they choose. You need to make sure you have music that won't get kicked off, because if you're using somebody's song, then it's going to get you kicked out. But yeah, as far as blending stuff together, if you're doing camera stuff, I use Premiere mostly, Adobe Premiere. Okay, we're looking for another question. That's it? Okay, then what we're going to do is take a little break, and I think we got about a 10-minute break, and I'm going to put some stuff together for the next little program. It's going to be a little bit different than I talked about, but we're also going to, I had a couple people send in some images to discuss from other competitions. So I'll try and give you the information, and then I'll discuss what I think or how I feel about the images. Okie doke. We'll see you in about 10 minutes. Welcome back. So, tonight's going to be a little bit different for the second program. I was going to do the whole program on the competition categories and how to enter and kind of how to look at them a little bit better. I didn't get all that put together, but I did spend some time with getting some of the images in. And I know somebody was just asking if they could enter or submit some images for review tonight. But tonight we can't, just because I got to get it, I got to set it up, I got to put it in my Photoshop and all that stuff. So we're not going to be able to get to that tonight. Before I critique the images from last time, I want to talk about a couple things. Oh, not that. So, not every cover here, but all these Swimwear Illustrated, Eugenia, Swimwear Illustrated. I'm in all these magazines, and I'm in all of these not necessarily because I'm the best photographer, but I shoot for what they're looking for. So same thing when you're entering competitions, you have to know what you're shooting for. When you're picking categories, a lot of us, and I do it, it's not, anyone in particular, don't feel like you did wrong or anything because I'm saying it, but a lot of times I'm like, I just want to enter this category, and I'm digging through old stuff and going, here, let's put this in. And that's really not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is if you're trying to shoot for a category or you're trying to do something, then you want to make sure you're going in that right direction in the first place. A lot of programs and competitions don't have categories. If you look a lot through Photographic Society of America and a lot through PPA events, they just have open. Some of them have color and some of them have monochrome. And you're competing with all kinds of different stuff. A lot of PSA have open, monochrome, and photojournalism. So you have one specified category, but the other ones are just kind of hit and miss. And some people will, you kind of learn, just the same with the Nevada Camera Club judges, you kind of learn to see what people like and they don't like. So if anybody thinks that judging is, not impartial, you're crazy, because of course people are going to like one thing more than they like something else. You're supposed to judge bias, and all judges try to do that, but there's still things that are going to impact them more than other things. Once again, quick story. I've done a lot of catalog work. So I used to shoot one of these catalogs for American Memorabilia, and I shot for them for a long time. And I'm talking about shooting, somewhere between 1,000 to 5,000 products. Every 2 months we would do a catalog. So usually we'd have a week off and then we'd start again, and it'd take a couple weeks to shoot it, and then they'd do their auction. And I did this all the way back in the film days. So we were doing film at one point, and then it kind of transformed into digital. And I was shooting all the pictures, the baseballs. Baseballs, you got to shoot, 4 different sides of the baseball. Anyway, a lot of work, but the whole point of that is you have to, I was selected because of how I was doing the photography. It wasn't because there wasn't better photographers out there. It was more about how I was putting it together and how I was shooting the photography. So I'm talking about that as far as entering magazines to be submitted or published. The same with sports events. If you're trying to send something to a baseball magazine, you don't want to shoot football and send it in because it's going to get thrown away, which is what I was talking about before with some competitions. If it's not good enough, it just gets thrown out. That's the end of the line. I'm going to do one more here. I got a couple more. So this this is how I lost this job, since we're on the subject of this. Oddly enough, is the hardest thing they were having problems with was baseballs. Can you see those? Let's see all those baseballs? And I would shoot like 100 baseballs, and then if it's a team-signed baseball, you got to shoot like 6 different sides. Did you know a baseball had 6 sides? Some of these have 7 sides, believe it or not. But the funniest thing is I would shoot them on a green screen. That way I could cut them out really easy. And when they hired me, they were shooting them on a white screen. And one day, one of the guys says, "Man, how are you doing that? Because every time we shoot them on a green screen, the balls turn out green." And I said, "Dude, just go into Photoshop and delete the green color." And you know what? I got fired the next week. That was the last catalog I shot because their graphic artist didn't know how to do that. And they kept getting green balls. But what I was giving them the images already cut out. So oddly enough, by showing the owner how I was doing it, I lost the job, and they taught the graphic artist how to do it. Because he got paid less than me anyway, so. But that happens. But the whole point is, categories or magazines are the same thing. Now, talking about judging, here's Popular Photography. At one time, the biggest photography magazine in the world. And here's an image that I entered in Camera Club. And I'm not saying Camera Club's bad judges, because I've put stuff into Camera Club that's done terrible, like this image, and I've put stuff into other things that don't get picked by anyone that Camera Club does good. So it doesn't matter as much, but this did really bad in a Camera Club competition, but it got printed a full page in Popular Photography. It actually won the portrait contest. So judging can be impartial, or it cannot, and you're not going to know that until you enter. Some of you guys that get a little bit lower score or don't get a blue ribbon, actually, you can re-enter the images in Nevada Camera Club. Some competitions you can't. You can only enter once, and it's done no matter how good or bad it does. But we're going to talk about a couple things. So categories is a big thing that I see judges giving high scores for images in the wrong category. What the worst thing about that is Nevada Camera Club has a plaque for, what do you got to win? 10? You got to hit at least 10 categories to get the plaque, and then you can add the 11, 12, and 13th one. So if people aren't trying to actually shoot an image that fits that category and they're winning a blue ribbon, then they're getting a plaque and once again not learning and not expanding. And I'm not trying to keep people from winning awards or taking awards away from people. I'm just trying to help promote what Nevada Camera Club promotes, is the learning process, the education behind it. Problem categories seem to be between people and portraiture. Those have a big issue. People picture should be more about the interaction of the person or the action of the person, or like a guy on a street. There's a lot of street photographers, so a guy on a street sitting down or holding a sign or something like that would be a little bit more of a people person than a portrait, because a portrait you should have full control of that. Now, are you lucky to have good lighting on that street person and it makes a great portrait? Sure, that happens. But there's generally just the struggle between the two. Another one is nature, wildlife, and animals, pets, for instance. So we had a club challenge that was called Pet Animals not too long ago. And there was a couple images that scored really high because they're good images, but it was an image of an egret, which I know is not a pet animal. At least I've never seen a pet animal. I mean, egrets aren't even normally in a zoo unless they just happen to fly in and hang out there for the day because people are feeding them. So, the same thing with wildlife. If you're shooting wildlife on a game farm, then it can't be nature. And I do a lot of trips. I do trips to Africa, which are wildlife, and I do trips to Montana, which are on game farms, and we're setting that up. So even though it's a wild animal, we can't go up and pet it per se, and it's still, a contained animal or a setup image where it's not true wildlife or nature. Once I get the category thing together, we'll go through all of them more and talk about it a little bit more. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple images that were sent in from other people. And here we have, this one is called Bleeding Hearts. And this was in the club challenge. Oh, I didn't write the notes down, darn it. This was in the club challenge. Stephen, can you remember what the club challenge was? Flowers? Okay, Stephen said flowers, so I think it was just flowers. The comment on here was the focus. The judge didn't like the focus. In my opinion, I'm kind of siding with the judge on this one. I think the focus should be on the first flower, because the first thing you see in the image is that first flower. That first flower is the biggest flower, so just it almost feels unbalanced having the next one out of focus. So I kind of want to see that first one in focus, and then if the second and third one were dropping out or a little bit out of focus, I think that might feel better just to me as the viewer. And if you could have enough depth of field to have all three in focus, I think that would have probably been the best. But of course, having that much depth of field, I know that's going to affect the background, and everything's going to probably be a little more focused in the background, and then you're going to have that issue. One thing I can relate to a lot with this is your focus point was probably set in the middle, and me shooting a lot of racing, you'd have 3 or 4 cars coming by at the same time, and even though I might focus on that second car because it might be one of my sponsors' cars, when I get the picture, usually they were getting thrown out because even the magazines, they don't care who my sponsor is. They want that first car in focus. So they're looking at that as a bad picture and it's getting thrown out. So even Action Sports that I was working for at the time was kind of like, these are crappy. So that's my best opinion. So I think that was kind of right on. The rest of it is, I kind of don't like the black line that leads into the top flower. The green I like, but I only like the green along the bottom, and the ones that are kind of right behind the flowers are a little bit distracting. I think if you could have moved in a little bit closer, or maybe even just crop this. Here, let's do this real quick. Let's just, if we could crop this image in a little bit, it might help us, I think that would have added a little bit more, but still the problem issue I think with the judge that scored this is not having this first one here in focus. So very good. Okay, so let's go to the next one. We have football. I don't have the title, so image should have been further cropped on the right. So meaning the judge is saying that maybe we should have cropped this a little bit more here. I'm just doing this quickly. I'm not kind of saying this is how it should be, but I don't think that has that much impact. Unfortunately, this is probably a little bit during pandemic because usually the Revels are pretty full. I don't know why there's nobody in these seats back here. Oops, let's go back. There we go. I don't think cropping this is going to change that much. I think it would be nice if maybe we had a little bit more of him. I don't know, maybe his butt's kind of big here and that would distract. I like the line here coming in. I like the three guys leading in. I like his face. I like the football. I don't think this has a lot of impact. It has a lot of sports story to it, which is generally most of the impact for photojournalism. I think this was photojournalism. For a photojournalism image, but just overall, I mean, sometimes you have an image, and once again, I'm the same way. I've got images that I really, really like, but to put them into a competition standpoint, sometimes they just don't add up as well. But I think this is great. I think this is great right here. If maybe these guys had a little more action, grabbing him, pulling at his shirt, that would have gave it more impact, more ooh-ah to it. And believe me, I know how hard it is to shoot sports. I shoot baseball, I shoot racing, women's tennis, AVP pro volleyball, so I know how hard it is. You got to remember, if I go out to shoot a race here, usually there's about 120 credentialed photographers. Sports Illustrated only has one cover, so yeah, got to be outstanding to be up there. Okay, we did Bleeding Hearts. Let's go to Nellie with the squirrel. Okay. This is Nellie. This was a club challenge as well. This was pet animals. So does it fit the category? Yes, absolutely. Much more than that egret I seen. The subject is the dog. These are comments from the judges. The subject is the dog, and the toy is so bright it detracts from the dog. So the toy is so bright it detracts from the dog. Yes and no. I don't think that's the biggest problem here. I think that, so if I turn on, that's, so that would be rule of thirds. Maybe if we put his eyes in a rule of thirds, but that cuts off his head a little bit. We don't have any more bunny down there. I think that this probably means more to somebody that owns the puppy, and it's probably a cuter picture. I like the creative application with the effect that's been applied to it. I like that. I think that's the most creative thing here. The bunny's a little bit bright. He does kind of overpower from the puppy, but I think it's a cute picture. I think it's more appealing and more impactful for the people that probably own the dog or have the dog, and they're going to love it. The same as if, not every picture I shoot of my son I can put into a competition because I might think it's great, and I'll tell you what, my mom's going to think it's great, my uncle's going to think it's great, my dad's going to think it's great, his mom's going to love it. So I've got like 10 people that say this is the best picture ever, but then I put it into a competition and it's going to get beat up because it was just a snapshot. And that happens, And once again, I'm saying sometimes instead of trying to create something good for a competition or for a category, we're trying to find something that looks, and I'm not saying that's what this maker did. I'm just saying that happens to all of us. And so overall, I don't think the puppy's really impactful. I kind of agree with the judge that commented the bunny takes away. I don't think it's a bad picture. I don't know what the score was. But I'm going to say it didn't win. Okay, so tomato. Okay, so this is tomato. This is another club challenge, food. It says more documentary than food. Well, okay, so there's one that I'm going to correct the judge, because if the category is food and there's food in the category, I think this fits the category. Once again, do I think it is an impactful image that might win the competition? Probably not. I might like to see the torch over this way a little bit so I can see it kind of burning the skin. But then again, you've got the aspect of someone's going to look at it and go, oh, it's burning the skin. It's not going to look good. So sometimes you got an image that it's kind of good and it's kind of hard to figure out where it's going to apply and do the most effective judge viewing, grasping, point earning position. And I think it fits a category, and I think it could be in here. Is the judge correct when he says it also fits the documentary category? Sure, I think it fits a documentary. I think it's kind of a good documentation. It's not so storytelling that it's more photojournalism. I think this is a good representation of documenting the process of burning the skin or doing a roasted tomato. So hopefully these are helping. Sometimes I see an image and along with other judges, and once again, you may see something that you think should not be in here, and within Nevada Camera Club, we try and keep everything in. We try and comment. We try and help with some competitions, and just bring it back again that some of these would be possibly thrown out because if they don't fit the category or if it just doesn't fit, all the elements of an image, that could happen. Okay, so we have another one. This is a abandoned in the desert. So this had a few comments, which is good. That's what we should have. We should have a few comments on all images. So this said, I don't have a category. If I did, I didn't get it. So sky is too bright. Didn't like the head-on angle. And needed more processing to increase saturation. I kind of like the application again. I don't know if this is the same one that's on the puppy, but it's similar style to that, and I like that. I like the blues. I like the mountains. I like the ground surrounding. I think I kind of agree the sky's a little bit bright, but compositionally, I would like to see this either up higher or down lower, I think, just to have it stand out of the image a little bit more. Straight on, I'm okay with. I think it just kind of falls in this line. I see a lot of portrait photographers do the same thing, where they have the head right at the horizon line instead of standing up or bending down to try and break out of that horizon line. You want it to stand out more to the viewer. Other than that, I like everything else about it. I don't know if you can darken the sky. That might not, even be effective with this kind of application. So, okay, we have one more. So this was in the nature wildlife category. I didn't get the score on this, so I don't know how it scored. But I think the biggest problem is this doesn't fit the nature category. Let's go. This is categories. This was printed June 2019, so this should be pretty accurate. Nature photography depicts observations from all branches of natural history except anthropology and archaeology in such a fashion that a well-informed person will be able to identify the subject material and to certify as to its honest presentation. The storytelling value of a photograph must be weighed more than the pictorial quality. Human elements shall not be present except on the rare occasion where those human elements enhance the nature story. So, an example of that might be Niagara Falls. you might have a little person on the side of Niagara Falls to show how big the falls are. Because if you just took a picture just of the falls, it might look like your bathtub overflowing to some people. You don't understand the size of it. But to have the whole bottom thirds of this image be, part of the main subject, which is the railing, this shouldn't be in the nature wildlife category. This should be another category. But once again, I don't know what this scored. It can always be entered again if it didn't get a blue ribbon. I think, let's do this. I'm just going to change this to an 8 by 10. I think even for the maker, you might I'm going to straighten the horizon line a little bit. Okay. And then we're going to put that horizon right at the bottom thirds. So this might be a little bit stronger image in pictorial classification. Because really the whole thing you're trying to show here is the orange sky. The sun has set. You've got an orange sky, a little bit of light colors in the water, and a little bit of blue at the top. So maybe closing that in a little bit, it's going to score a little bit higher. Putting it in a proper category is going to score a little bit higher. My guess is it might have not scored great, but I don't know that. I don't remember the scores, and I don't have them. So, hey, that was all I have for images that were submitted.
Questions?
Yeah, we're going to do questions. You can turn that off. So, if anybody has any questions about those, if anybody wants to, I think I'm sanctioned to judge the next competition, but even if I'm not, if anybody wants to send me images, and I will try and do this again. I'll try and discuss. I don't want to be correcting other judges. That's not what I'm trying to do. So what I'm trying to do is if you'll send me an image, send me your score, send me the judge's comments, if write them down or whatever. I'll try and figure out what's going through that judge's mind. I will give you my opinion. Obviously, I didn't correct everything that was here, so sometimes I'm going to side with the judge, sometimes I'm not. But that's the whole idea. That's why we have a panel of judges. So within Nevada Camera Club, we have 5 judges, and then 3 are selected at different times to judge a certain category, and that's kind of how that's set up, and which is a good plan. It works out well. A lot of clubs do it. A lot of other organizations do it that way. We do have a question up there that says, how are the judges selected? A lot of organizations right now, a lot of people are scared to judge for whatever reason, and you shouldn't be. You shouldn't feel beat on for your opinion or your commentary on an image, because once again, all the judges are going to be a little bit biased, and they're all going to see different things. Right away, when one judge sees something in here, another judge doesn't always see it. So sometimes it scores higher. One judge might see, a bad error on the side, or something didn't come out good technically, but it has a lot of impact. So one judge is going to score it just on the impact solely, and then another judge is going to score it on technical quality. So sometimes your judging is going to be up and down. How are they selected with Nevada Camera Club? We used to have a selection process that you had to follow to be a judge. Right now, I think just, pandemic and all that stuff hasn't helped as well. But there's not a lot of judges to choose from. So right now it's kind of who's available on certain days and certain times to get it done. Some of the other organizations you have to apply, some of them you have to have certain credentials. So every organization has it a little bit different, their selection process. You have another question? That's it? Okay. Then we are all done with questions for this time. Like I said, if anybody wants to send me some other images, I know somebody had asked earlier, go ahead and send them to me now. If I get enough, I'll make this, maybe we'll make this a little after the judging thing, not the same day, but like competitions are on Friday, maybe the following Monday or something, I'll do a judging program or a judge's corner. We'll call it that. I just made that up. Somebody else might be using it, but if not, we'll use it. So send me some, if you can, send me the scores, send me the image, and send me the comments, and we will go from there. Hey, I want to thank everybody for showing up, and we want to thank Delcan and Canon and BNC for sponsoring this program. And